marching on, knowing that it could be bloody, it could be hard, but yet they're willing to engage. They're willing to step. So that's kind of like my challenge for all of us in the beginning of this year. So let's count the cost, right? That's our text in Luke chapter 14, verse 25, verses 25 to 33. Now, if you read the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you will notice that large crowds, they always followed Jesus. Wherever place he went to. Like, for example, in Matthew 8, verse 1, when he had come down from the mountain, great multitudes followed him. Large crowd. In 20 verse 29, now as he went out of Jericho, all over places, great multitude again followed him. In Mark chapter 3, but Jesus withdrew with his disciples to the sea, and a great multitude from Galilee, Jerusalem, from Tyre and Sidon, a great multitude came to him. In Luke, it says there, when they had brought their boats to land, they forsook all and followed him. Luke 5:11. And in John chapter 6, it says, after these things, Jesus went over to the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias. Then a great multitude again followed him. So as you can see, people follow Jesus all over places where he went through. But what I like with Jesus is that he would make sure to those folks who are following him, telling them up front, what's at stake, what's the cost of following him. You must be aware. Out there, good deals, right? This advertisement with all those pretty too good to be true, crazy deals. But guess what? There will be a little fine prints, small prints out there, hidden somewhere, that if you're not paying attention, you may be getting into some bad situation. But not Jesus. Jesus here is kind of like this honest salesman or salesperson. He wanted to make sure that right up front in bold letters, here's what you can get out or can get in where you're coming in. Here's what's at stake in following me. And that's what we can see in our text today in Luke chapter 14. You see, in verse 25, it says there, now the great multitude went with him, and he turned and said to them, like an honest salesperson, here is in bold letter what's at stake. If anyone comes to me and does not hate his father, his mother, wife, children, brothers, sisters, yes, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. What? Hating a family? Hating your own life? You guys, anyone want to follow? You still want to be engaged? You still want to engage in me? You see, unlike a dishonest salesman, here's Jesus, unafraid, telling these people up front the cost of following him. He wanted to make sure that there could be a painful cost of being a follower of Jesus Christ. Now I mentioned that word, if anyone. That's first and foremost, let's take it down. If anyone. I like what Oswald Chambers said about this word. He said, there is always an if in connection with discipleship, in connection of following the Lord, in making a decision to be a follower of Jesus Christ. And it implies that we need not be disciples unless we like There is never any compulsion. Jesus does not coerce us. In other words, Jesus is not forcing us to come or giving us good deals with fine small prints out there. He turned to the crowd and said to their face, right up front, if you want to follow me. So I think Oswald is clear here. There is only one way of being a disciple, and that is by being devoted to Christ or to Him. So you see, folks, discipleship is a serious business. Now, the word was used here, hate. Now that doesn't mean it's a literal, physical hitting a person. The word is being used here in a sense that it is on that side of priority. The priority side of love. We call it maybe to love less. Because Jesus required us that He must be the supreme being that we love, aside from other people. He must be up there. So hating your family is difficult. But that word means that Jesus, our loyalty to Jesus must come first, before anybody else. You must love Christ supremely, even more than we love our own flesh and blood. Hard? Difficult? Yes. You still want to engage? You still want to follow? So if you put your shoes on those crowds, if you be part of those crowds, here's an honest person telling you that this is not something that I'm forcing you to come. That is if you want to follow. By the way, what was the greatest commandment? The greatest commandment is to love God with all of your heart, mind, and soul, and strength. Second, love your neighbor as yourself. So here you go. It could be happening. This could be happening right down the road. And Jesus is telling them, you still want to follow? You still want to be a part of this? Number 2. In verse 27, here it says, and whoever does not bear his cross, so not only hating the family in a sense that you love Christ more than them, but here's another even deeper. Whoever does not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciples. What does it mean? What does it mean to bear or carry the cross? To me, it means that it is a daily identification with Christ. In my words, in my action, in my shame, in my suffering. See, when back in the days, in the Roman times, in the Roman Empire time, they literally wanted the criminal to carry their own cross and walk publicly so that people would see that they are sinners. So that people would see that they made a mistake. That they're criminals, that they belong to that group. And here's the catch. That's why they wanted to make it public, because Rome wanted them to know that Rome was right. That Rome was right about this person. Now here we are, we're saying about bearing cross. You want to follow? Jesus is saying, hey, I'm going to Calvary. I'm going to be crucified. Do you want to come? Brothers and sisters, it means we need to identify with Christ. We need to make sure. I think it means that surrendering our will, our plans, to His good plan. Whatever that cross that God is giving to us, the burden to the ministry. We have folks here coming every Sunday, knowing that COVID is just right there in the corner. That might be our cross. Cross is something we willingly accept, that God is at work in our lives. Now I want to hammer on to this, because that is kind of like when carrying my cross. That is, Lord, I am identifying myself to you. In my words, in my action, in my shame, in my suffering. Having said that, we should be thinking on how we behave out there. How's our attitude out there? On how I'm too critical with this demanding boss, for example. Or I'm too critical about these jealous co-workers. Or how I'm so critical about this noisy neighbor with the noisy dog. Folks, carrying the cross to me is a daily reflection, is a daily identification with Christ. In my words, in my action, in my shame, in my suffering, in my plan, surrendering it to Him. So anyone willing? Is anyone wanting to come to me? Jesus is saying. My second point. Here's my third one. I'm going to skip to verse 33. So likewise, whoever of you does not forsake all that he has. It's hard. Cannot be my disciple. And here's the final one. So here's Jesus again turning to the crowd. Right straight to their face in front in bold letters, not in some fine small print hiding. Jesus is open and afraid and ashamed, telling them that He is calling a life emptied of themselves and be filled with it. You see, our life is identified in Christ. In other words, our lives are not defined by what we have or things we accomplish or things we have, but by who we have or who is in us. We are in Christ. So our identity is not that, because I'm part of this exclusive email group that is only for these certain people. Or I'm getting all this exclusive subscription because I'm part of the 1% or whatever percentage you are in. That's not my identity. I can forsake all for the sake of Christ. That's the cost. That's the price I pay. You want to come? Jesus is saying. Following Him means we focus on letting Jesus change our identity. I'm telling you, this is not an overnight thing. Right? We want to be successful. There's no doubt about it. But little by little, when we really want to engage and follow the Lord, I hope that we let Jesus continually change our identity. Are you cool with that? Anyone still willing to engage? So I'm going to close in here. So following Jesus, we know it's costly. It's not cheap. Even the grace we talk about, grace is not cheap. It costs Jesus' life. Same thing when we follow Him. When we follow Him, we going to count the cost. We don't take it lightly. We must include planning and sacrifice. And that's why this verse, I save it for last. Because there are two illustrations in here. So they could be hating a family in a sense of a priority of love down the road. There could be some carrying our cross down the road. There could be emptying ourselves and making sure that Christ is our identity. And so here is the illustration. So for which of you intending to build a tower does not sit down first and count the cost? Whether he has enough to finish it? Lest after he has laid the foundation and it is not able to finish, all who see it, begin to mock him, saying, "This man began to build and was not able to finish." That's illustration one. And here's another one. Say if you're a king. Or what king going to make war against another king does not sit down first and consider what he is able with 10,000 to meet him, who comes against him with 20,000. You know, folks, I don't know what's the interpretation or the exact meaning of this parable. And there will be a lot out there. But one thing is clear, both illustrate the principle of discipleship, that is, following Jesus include costly demand. It includes price to pay. To engage with Him includes sacrifice, suffering, shame. And we must be willing to pay the price and count the cost. So don't take discipleship lightly. That's why we say earlier, it's a new time. Thursday, 7 p.m. And some of you might be, oh man, I'm watching football. Thursday football that time. Thursday, I have a game. Thursday, that's my date time. Thursday, whatever. Now here's your choice. I know it's costly. I know it's additional 30 to 45 minutes of your precious time of the week. Don't take discipleship lightly. It includes planning, sacrifice, self-denial. But overall, I will close, don't lose heart. Right? Because if you choose to answer the call with full knowledge in bold print, that you will be in for some very hard moments, it is well worth it, folks, in the end. It is all worth it in the end. Romans 8:18. For I consider this suffering in this present time not worthy for what is going to be revealed to me. 2 Corinthians 4:16, 17. Do not lose heart. You may be, what it says there, even though our outward man is perishing, but the inward is being renewed every day. For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, it's not forever, it's working for us far more exceeding an eternal weight of glory. I like this one, and that would be my last. Folks, it is all worth it in the end. Because being confident of this very thing, that He who began a good work in you will complete it until the day of Jesus Christ. You betcha, yeah? That's what they're telling. The one who promised this is the Lord. So whatever we're engaging into, knowing full well what we're up to stand for Christ in the midst of this crooked world or environment, knowing full well that I could lose this, I could lose that friend, or I could lose this opportunity, or my dream, or whatever. As long as I'm identified with Christ, I'm going to follow you, Lord, because it will be all worth it in the end. Be engaged. Now to close this, I appreciate this lady. And I'm gonna call her. I'm gonna invite her today. And her name is Kate Aguilar, right? To share with us that this is really real out there. To share with us that this is not something that we have to take lightly. So I'm gonna call on Kate to share with us her testimony, and we'll close on that one. Come on, Kate. Sorry. Yeah, that one. Make it, press it longer because sometimes it's...
Alright, hi everyone. Good afternoon. I never imagined myself to ever be up on our church stage, and I never imagined myself that I'd ever have a testimony to share. But here I am today, and I really just wanted to take the time to thank Pastor Johan and Sister Gigi for giving me this opportunity to share what it means when we allow God to engage. So I was asking myself, what does engage really mean? And the literal definition of engage is, it's a verb, it's an action, we have to do it. And it means to occupy, attract, or involve someone's interest or attention, and it also means participate or become involved in. So, how can we engage God, knowing that's the definition? Well, there are 5 areas that God wants to be engaged in. And engaging God in our lives is definitely not an easy thing, because when we engage Him, it means that we give up our own plans that we have for ourselves, and we let go of the identity that we built up, gaining it from other people, and maybe like the other people that we've looked up to. And the areas that He wants to engage in our lives is He wants to give us a place, He wants to give us a purpose, provision, an identity, and a parameter. So, before I get into how we can engage Him in those areas and what it would look like, I want to share a story with you. I was given and blessed with one of the best earthly fathers ever. I look up to my dad so much. My dad's my best friend. He's my mentor, and we have a really strong father-daughter connection. I've always ran up to my dad, and my dad's a very successful man. He immigrated from the Philippines, was in the Navy, and then, finished undergrad, grad school, was president in so many organizations, and I've always just been standing in the sidelines just in awe of my dad. Like, wow, how are you even that successful? It's amazing, and I want to be just like my dad. Ooh. So I kept running up to my dad and being like, Dad, so I want to be just like you. I want to be just as successful. What's the plan of attack? And my dad being my dad was so awesome in mentoring me and telling me, hey, Kate, you should really consider going to this school and this internship and being a part of this organization, and maybe at least have the courage to serve in a leadership position. So I've always ran up to my dad for plans, and I started getting my identity from my dad. And, it was really cool. Following the plans that my dad had for me led me to amazing opportunities I never even imagined I'd have. I was part of the 1% that was accepted to intern at the White House under the Obama administration, and I got to travel for the president. That's me standing by Air Force One and his helicopter Marine One, and then that's me and the First Lady, and then I got to bolt inside the White House and explore the library. Never imagined I'd be there. And then I got into Cornell. I was the first in my family to get into an Ivy League, so huge win for my family and myself. And then I found myself writing these communication campaign strategies at the Environmental Protection Agency and rubbing elbows with the EPA administrator, Gina McCarthy, and then bumping into Leonardo DiCaprio in the United Nations. Like, what? It was a really cool time, guys. And then after grad school and having fun in New York and Washington, D.C., I came back home and I was like, all right, Dad, so now what's the plan? And so my dad was a really supportive dad and, helped me with the job search, but I ended up having 2 opportunities at my hand at the same time. So I got decision letters or acceptance offers from a small firm in Los Angeles, and then a huge firm in Washington, D.C. And I always thought that I was going to settle in Washington, D.C., especially because I fell in love there with a place all my friends are there. But then again, ran up to Dad, ran up to my family, ran up to friends, and was like, hey, so what's the decision I should make? And everyone was telling me, well, just knowing you, Kate, you always like being outside your comfort zone, so even though this is a smaller firm and it's not prestigious and it doesn't pay bank, like just take the job in LA, plus you're going to be close to us. So I was like, okay. So took this job, and things didn't go that great. Pretty much, in a nutshell, I found myself just not being able to do more than, I wasn't able to reach my full potential. So although I did appreciate this job, I was being really constrained, and it led to a mental breakdown. And my point with that is we can have our own plans, and our plans can be so great for ourselves. It could lead us to really cool opportunities that we never even imagined, like how I was showing you, White House, UN, EPA, Cornell. But those plans aren't the big, great plans that God has for us. And instead of us running constantly to other people, asking, hey, what should I do? Where should I go? God is really asking you to engage Him and ask Him, what are the plans that He has for you? Because the plans that you have for yourself, it's only going to take you so far. Yeah. So this was the start of the turn of the tide for me. So I had a little mental breakdown, and then can't forget the Cornell boyfriend. You gotta ask God in relationships too. God, is this a relationship that I should pursue? Because God is going to be your provision if you allow Him to. And if you don't, if you go outside the parameters, it can lead you to really toxic places. Cornell boyfriend, because I didn't even ask for God's blessing on this, and I was my own provision in supplying my love life, and I was getting so peer pressured, like, hello, you are approaching your 30s, Catherine. Let's get the love life together, girlfriend. So I let this guy into my life, and I really was so raw, open, vulnerable. Again, didn't ask for God's blessing on this. And I was trying to just be loved in His eyes. And one thing that He would tell me is, oh, you look so skinny mini today. And that registered in my brain as, oh, so you're going to love me if I just shrink myself. So being with this guy led me to an eating disorder. So in the picture on the right, that's me in Florida after the breakup, just to clear my head. I lost about 15 pounds being with this guy, and I was so bony and embarrassed about how skinny and bony I was. I couldn't even walk in the beach without that cover-up. I reached bottom of rock bottom. I graduated not having a boyfriend and not having a job. Oh, actually, having a job, but then going through a mental breakdown. And the thing is that when you engage with God and start giving up your plans, and He asks you, trust me, follow me, you really have to have that trust. And He validated that for me with these two cars. I was walking into the gym, and that white van was backing up into me, really about to hit me, and it said, love you, Kate. And that was just God's reminder that pain is a prerequisite to purpose. I'm going to say that one more time. Pain is a prerequisite to purpose. And the reason why pain is a prerequisite to purpose is because God is trying to instill a certain character in you, and in your weakness, we're supposed to call on God and say, okay, I've never done something. I've never done this, and I need you to stand in my weakness so that your presence is known. So that's why he gives us these challenges. And then, okay, my year 2020. So then, after going through that breakup, that mental breakdown at my first job, I decided to call it quits and travel to Vienna for a hot second, and then just see, okay, where can I, what's my next step? And then I found this firm called EPD Solutions, Environmental Protection and Development, EPD, Environmental Planning Development Solutions. It's a development firm, and they do entitlements, CEQA, and urban planning. And I interviewed with them, and they were like, okay, you seem like a promising lady. And I was like, yes. But the thing is that I don't have a background in entitlement, CEQA, or land development. So the special thing that I can bring to the table is strategic outreach. And they were like, that's actually a very valuable thing that you can bring to the table, because every single development project triggers public outreach. And there's no one here in our firm that does public outreach yet. There's no one here that can turn our technical work into something that the general public can understand. And so this team decided to take me on. And I was really excited. I started at EPD as an assistant project manager, and I negotiated really high for myself. So I'm going to use this little leverage right here to show you how much, to represent how much I was making. So I was like, wow, God, thanks for giving me this much. This is amazing. I'm an assistant project manager. And then, to keep a long story short, some funky office politics happened. And this lady, she decided to demote me to coordinator. And when I say demote me, that means the team reclassified me from assistant project manager to coordinator. And then I also got a 30% salary cut. So I was from here and went down all the way here. And that was very confusing to me, because like my dad, I'm very driven, I'm a high achiever. I know I have the qualifications and the background to do amazing things, and I'm more capable of doing coordinator level work. So to get a demotion and a salary cut was just like, what? And so when the team broke the news to me that, yeah, we're going to demote you to coordinator, we're going to demote you to coordinator, or you can transition out, Catherine, what do you want? And I couldn't make a decision on the spot. I was way too emotional, so I asked for a couple of days off. And instead of turning to my dad this time, this is the game changer, everyone, I didn't turn to my dad. I decided to turn to God, and I fasted and I prayed, and I was like, wow, God, I am so confused. I don't know what to do. You know, I'm tied by a 6-figure student loan. I'm tied by my car payments. I'm 27 years old living at my parents' house. Like, I love them, but I'm dying. What should I do? I know that I have the qualifications to make double somewhere else. So, God, what do you want me to do? And I prayed and fasted, and God was like, Kate, I'm trying to give you a place. Allow me to do what I'm about to do. Stay. And so I was like, wow, really? Okay, I guess. And so I had to have my follow-up meeting with the leadership team to tell them my decision, whether I was going to stay or whether I was going to transition out. And as I was driving up to the meeting, I was just having one more check-in with God. I was like, okay, God, here, 5 minutes away from work. Are you pretty super sure you want me to stay at a job that's paying me this low and that demoted me to coordinator? Are you super, super, super sure? And he was like, Kate, I'm going to tell you one more time that pain is a prerequisite to purpose, and I'm trying to give you a place. So stay and allow me to do what I'm about to do. And I said, oh, fine. So I left my breakfast in the car because I was like in the back of my head, I was like, I think I'm just going to transition out. I'm not going to stay. And so I really just planned to tell the team I'm going to transition out and then eat my breakfast and leave. But I went into the room one more time and I was like, okay, God, well, come in with me. I'm really scared. I'm trembling. And the team changed the second time around. They reframed the demotion as, Catherine, we really like you and we see something special in you, but we need to have you start at a coordinator level role in order for you to do business development and write your own proposals and get established relationships with clients, etc., etc. We want you to be the head of the outreach branch, but we can't support you at this original salary. We gotta have you work from the bottom up. And I was just like, well, okay, God, are you sure? I'm about to say yes, are you sure? And he said, stay. So I stayed. And staying was really hard. I actually had to go through therapy to get over the trauma of working under a toxic boss. I had to go to therapy to heal from the trauma of getting demoted and getting a salary cut. And it was really hard for me to watch my peers around me get promoted. And I really just put my head down and I'm like, you told me to stay here, God. So why is everyone else around me getting promotions and getting salary raises? When is it my turn? And I've been patiently working, patiently waiting for my turn. And then at the end of the year, I had a really cool opportunity. The president and the vice president were like, okay, Catherine, now it's the end of the year. We want you to give a business pitch on why the outreach branch is needed and why you should be trusted to lead this branch. And I definitely took that opportunity. I gave my business pitch, had my follow-up conversation with the president on compensation and salary. I just want to go back to these thresholds, okay? So I was down here, and then because I trusted God and staying patient in the place He was giving me and revealing purpose, I went from down here, and the president asked me, Catherine, what's your end goal? What do you want? What do you need? And I said, oh, my end goal is actually right here, and I want to reach that within the next year. He was like, yeah, but the thing is that you're the head of this branch, so yeah, this is your end goal, but I can actually exceed it to beyond what you're even talking about. And so I want this, this is definitely not about me wanting income threshold, but the point I'm trying to drive at is that, one, prerequisite to purpose. And God revealed purpose, my greater purpose in me, so I had the patience to stay. After God gives you place, purpose, he gives you an identity. And my identity at EPD has definitely evolved from project manager to now head of the branch. And the thing is, as God's children, we're like royalty. We are not the tail, we're the head. So after he gives you place, purpose, identity, he gives you parameters and also place, purpose, provision, identity, and parameters. So sometimes, is the camera catching this? Okay. Sometimes we get really caught up in losing our identity in other people and just social media. Sometimes people tell us, you're almost 30, dude. You gotta get married. Oh, you need to actually be making this much. Oh, and by the way, the Jones, they have this car and this purse. They also have this bag. Okay, that's fine. They also have that bag, and you need to be rubbing elbows with this and that. And so these balls represent the identity that we built up in our the cup represents the vessel. I know this isn't the fanciest of fancy props, but bear with me. The cup represents us, a vessel. The balls represent the identity we've gotten from other people, and they're just lies. But when we fill up our vessel with God's word and God's love for us, this is what ends up happening. Like the lies, they just don't stick. And when you're so filled up, the lies just can't even stick. And even if you try, even if someone told me, Catherine, you should be doing this and that, no, it's not gonna stick, because you gotta engage God, fill you up, to give you clarity on what his place is for you, what his greater purpose is for you. Allow him to be your provision, allow him to give you an identity, and allow him to give you parameters. And so, I'm encouraging you, church, to engage with God. And it's not going to be an easy journey because, again, it involves pain. It involves letting go of our own plans. And it involves us fully trusting his greater plans for us. So, I just want to close with that, and thank you.
That's right. So don't be scared to ask the Lord. That's the engaging aspect of it. Just be honest with him. And that's why we're saying, encouraging you to be in love with the Lord in that process as well. So we're going to close in this song, and I'd like everyone to please join with me as we sing our closing song.